y'all, it's Bear, and today I'm here to give you 10 book recommendations if you like the show Stranger Things. I have been watching a lot of TV lately, just, marathoning shows. I think in the past month I've probably watched about 6 shows all the way through, and that includes all 4 seasons of Stranger Things. I marathoned that in like a week. I don't know why no one turned me on to this before. Everyone in the fucking world was talking about it, but no one was like, hey, I think you would like this. Thanks for that. My favorite character, this is unpopular, is probably Jonathan, but I just think I relate to him the most being the oldest sibling, because if you know, I have 4 younger siblings, and just feeling stuck while they're going through stuff that you want to help them with, but you can't. So yeah, justice for Jonathan. Quit talking shit about him on TikTok. That's my favorite. Anyway, onto the books. There are middle grade, adult, and young adult here, so there should be something for everyone. Should go ahead and clarify that because the show is like science fiction, fantasy, horror based, it's gonna be that kind of vibe. I think I'm gonna go first with the book that I see recommended the most on like TikTok and in YouTube videos for like fans of Stranger Things, and that is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. And while this is a revamped Scooby-Doo, I think that if you like Stranger Things, you'll like it. It takes place in 1990 and follows a group of 4 kind of disenfranchised 20-somethings who, whenever they were younger, solved a mystery, a la Scooby-Doo. And now that they are in their 20s and they've gone through life, one of them was in the military, college, mental hospital, one of them committed suicide, they've gone through life. They realize, like, you can't be kids forever, right? They come to the realization that the mystery that they solved whenever they were children might not have just been a man in a mask. If you like Lovecraftian kind of horror and like the fear of the unknown, I would recommend this. I also just think if you're looking for characters like in their early 20s to relate to that lost, like, what's going on, what am I doing with my life feeling, would recommend it as well. Also, the 4 characters kind of line up perfectly with the 4 older characters in Stranger Things. You have like an ex-military gun girl, a nerdy kind of goofy, awkward Sapphic. They're very depressed, kind of angsty weirdo boy, and you have this kind of golden boy jock douchebag. I definitely recommend it. You're gonna like it. Next we have the most recent book that I read, and that's gonna be Mayhem by Estelle Lar. This one, if Max is your favorite character, definitely recommend reading it. And we follow a girl named Mayhem who has just moved back with her mother to her mother's hometown of Santa Maria, California. This is being pitched as like a revamped Craft meets a revamped Lost Boys, except instead of vampires, the main characters are like a coven of witches, I guess. Their whole family throughout like generations has had supernatural powers. Mayhem and her mother escaped her abusive stepfather, who is now kind of threatening to come back to them. So strong women making their own paths in life, has that beachy vibe from Max living in California, women kicking ass, and then like the abusive man who is a constant in your life that you can't ever really escape no matter how much you try. It's like facing your own demons and acknowledging that like maybe you haven't been the best person, but you're the best person to do this job. And no spoilers, but Max. Okay, number 3 is one that I have recommended quite a bit on my channel. I used to talk about it a lot more, and I'm definitely overdue for a reread, but if you're a fan of Lucas's character arc in season 4, where he kind of merges with the popular kids and then has to find his way back to his friend group, I would recommend The Sacrifice Box by Martin Stewart. This one takes place in the summer of 1986, so it also aligns perfectly with that time frame, and 4 years ago, whenever they were younger children, this group of friends made a promise to be friends forever. They went to go give a sacrifice to this box in the woods that everyone on their island town knows about. The rules with the sacrifice box are, it says, never come back to the box alone, never open it after dark, and never take back your sacrifice. Those rules are broken, and these sacrifices that they made as younger people are now coming back to haunt them as teens. I remember it really kind of freaking me out, but I love it. I love the cover. Like, you can't look at this cover and tell me it doesn't give you Stranger Things vibes. I also think it's really underrated because I've never ever really seen anyone else talk about it. If you want me to do a reread and then review this, let me know. Next is an adult novel called The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This one is by a Cherokee author. And this one, if you like The Byers Family, definitely check this one out. It's very grief-driven and works on like healing after the loss of a family member. Follow this Cherokee family, a mother, father, son, and daughter, who are all still grieving the loss of their child. It's been 15 years since he was killed by a police officer, and every year on his birthday, the family comes from all of their separate ways and reconvenes, not just for the holiday, but to also like mourn him and sit with each other and process the death. But this year, something different is happening. The family has kind of started to slowly drift apart more due to various things. And there's also a young child who comes back into the mother and father's life, who they kind of take in as foster parents. So I'm trying to think of how to explain this. There's also kind of an alternate dimension. It is a realm very similar to the Upside Down, so I would recommend this one if you're looking for, like, the Will, Jonathan, Joyce, Hopper situation. Next, we have another native author. This one is by Ojibwe author Dennis E. Staples, and that is This Town Sleeps. This is probably the least science fiction of anything on this list, so if you're wanting something that reads a little more literary fiction than sci-fi fantasy horror, I would recommend this one. And in this one, we follow an Ojibwe man named Marion, who is in this kind of on-again, off-again fuck-buddy relationship thing with this white dude who says he's straight. And one night, Marion uncovers a ghost dog, which leads him to the gravestone of a young indigenous boy who was 17 years old when he died. And when I say that, like, this death, like, shook up the town, I mean, like, he was 17 when he died. He was, like, the star high school basketball player, and they still talk about him. And Marion discovers that there's, like, some kind of family connections, and there's, like, an Ojibwe legend that might have something to do with it. And from what I remember in this book, I read it very quickly, but I believe that there's also, like, there's some ghosty spirit kind of stuff going on. Queer characters, the investigation, and then just the atmosphere reads very much like Hawkins to me, so I think that you would probably like this one. Next, if 11 is your favorite character, I have two books for you. The first one is Daughters of Jubilation by Carolee Corcoran, and this one takes place in the Jim Crow South, and we follow our protagonist, who is a 16, 17-year-old girl, and her name is Evie. And in her family, all of the women in her family have this gift passed down that's called a jubilation. Evie has two younger sisters, this boy that she's kind of crushing on that's a very well-developed romance, I will say. I really enjoyed the romance in this book. A single mother who's, like, working to provide for the kids. The backstory in this is really interesting, and you really get down to, like, the roots of the jubilation. It goes all the way back to the times of slavery. This book, like I said, is set in the Jim Crow South. So once again, a historical fantasy novel. But as Evie is kind of coming into her own and learning about this power, there's this mysterious man who keeps popping up around town, following her. And she knows that she knows him from somewhere, but she can't remember where. There's a part of her memories that have been locked away. And I'm scared to keep describing the synopsis to you because I feel like I might spoil it. But basically, if you like 11's backstory of being someone with powers and not being able to remember everything and having this creepy guy just keep popping up in your life, I think that you would really like Daughters of Jubilation. Kind of in tandem with the 11 recommendations, I have Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon, which I never see recommended in, like, Stranger Things related videos, but now that I've watched the show, I couldn't help but make comparisons. As I said, in the show Stranger Things, 11 is a girl who escapes from a testing facility who has developed these basically, like, telekinetic psionic abilities as a result of the experimentation. That's pretty much Sorrowland as a basis. We follow a character named Vern who escapes this compound that she has been a part of. And all she wants for her life is she just wants to live a normal life. She just wants to be a normal person, and, you know, her two babies that she has in the woods, she wants to raise them to survive. But ultimately, she just wants, like, a life. She wants to be free of everything that's been trapping her in the compound and all of the abuse that she faced there. So I think that's a very big, like, 11 theme throughout the show, throughout all 4 seasons of the show. And at many points, 11 has to kind of, like, push back what she really wants and just, like, be a superhero. That's a running theme throughout the show. And that's similar with Vern here, too. I can't spoil the climax of the book, obviously, but it is up to Vern to save the day because she is the only one who has ever escaped from the compound who has the capability to save the world, because this government testing thing has been going on for years, and it's the body horror in this is fantastic. If you want good, gruesome body horror, check this one out. Next, we have 2 Sapphic books, and if you're like a Robin or a Nancy fan, these might be your cup of tea. First, we have The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh, and this one follows a paranormal kind of ghostbustery podcaster named Dare, who takes this job over the summer cleaning up this old haunted house, right? The people are, like, renovating it, and Dare agrees to take the job, not telling anyone that she's, like, a super famous ghostbusty podcaster. She thinks that there's always, like, a scientific explanation for things, but her podcast is, like, a paranormal research podcast. So as she gets closer to the other 2 girls who are helping to clean up this mansion, more things start to come out about the backstory behind the house and all of the girls who have drowned or died around the house. There's also some possession things. It's really atmospheric and spooky. So if you want something that's more on like the fantasy horror side, I think this is good. But I think for the research element and all of like the science-y scenes, I guess, and they're trying to explain away the ghosts, I think this would be good in tandem with Stranger Things. But especially Nancy. Particularly like season 3 Nancy. Next, we have another Sapphic book, and that is Saw Kill Girls by Claire Legrand. Sort of similarly to The Girls Are Never Gone, we follow 3 teenage girls, Marion, Zoe, and Val. I believe that all the characters are queer. I think all 3 of them are queer. I think 2 of them are Sapphic and 1 is Ace. These 3 girls live on this island called Sawkill Rock, and for years, people have been whispering around the campfire about the girls who go missing on Sawkill Rock. They say that there's an entity that kidnaps the girls, takes them, and they find like their bones. So it's up to our 3 girls to investigate or help the monster. I can't say anything. There is some double crossing, there's some investigating, there's some romancy sort of situations sprinkled out this, but this one, it has more science fiction elements than you think, and you don't realize that going into it. Whenever they come into play, you start realizing everything that has kind of been like Easter egging to the overall mystery is science fiction based. I thought this was like a fantasy horror, but it's not. It's science fiction. And finally, if you just like that good season 1 Stranger Things, you know, kids, monsters, different dimensions, nerdy friend groups, bullies, stuff like that, you have to read Hide and Seeker by Dr. Herman. So in Hide and Seeker, we follow a boy named Justin and his group of friends, and their friend Z has been missing. Z comes back home, and they are throwing a birthday party. At the birthday party, it is suggested that they play hide and seek, and Z starts freaking out. Basically, in this town, children have been going missing while playing hide and seek because of an entity from a different realm pulling them into this like hide and seek shadow world and keeping them hostage there. It gives me, it's so good. It's so good. For a middle grade horror, this is good. This is also pretty scary for a middle grade horror. But I think if you just like those kids riding around on their bikes, trying to figure things out, people vanishing, monsters, ghouls, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Also the cover, very, very Stranger Things with the color scheme. It's so good. It's so fucking good. So that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by liking, subscribing, sharing, etc., as well as answering the comment question of the day. Comment question of the day, let me know who your favorite Stranger Things character is. Like I said, mine is definitely Jonathan. But I will be honest, like, Eddie almost knocked Jonathan out of the top spot. Also love Max, love Lucas, love Erica. Fucking Erica. Erica is like, every time she's on the screen, I'm just like, yes! Honestly, not the biggest fan of Mike, which is ironic considering he's supposed to be like the main boy, but I could do without Mike. If you don't have time, you don't have the spoons, you don't have an answer, you don't want to answer, or you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about with all of these Stranger Things references, just let me know you made it all the way until the end of the video by leaving me a heart emoji or a smiley face emoticon. If you read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them down in the comments, and if you have any other recommendations for books similar to Stranger Things, definitely let me know as well. Alright, I hope you have a wonderful whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time with another video. Thank you for watching. Okay, cool.